Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar that we will be doing tonight. On tonight's webinar, we will be discussing CFDs and how to simulate them using your Sharetrackin and Encompass software. So as we all know, there is the function of your CFD trading. For those of you who don't know what CFD trading is, CFD trading is more for traders. So how they work is it's for people that want to climb in today, make some profit, and also climb out in the same day. Or for people that are willing to wait, not usually longer than a week, pushing it to about 2 weeks, and then climbing out of a share. So with CFDs, you do get what they call a gearing ratio, which I will explain later on in the webinar, as well as a fraction of the price and how the costs work regarding your CFDs. So as you can see, I am on my Encompass page. I am at my login screen. You are more than welcome to go and watch last week's webinar regarding the refined advisors to see how we analyze shares for shorter term trading, your CFDs basically. So I'm going to log in. So while it's busy logging in, you will see that I have an investment dashboard and a trader dashboard on the left-hand side in the side menu. The trader dashboard is the dashboard that we will be using to trade our CFDs. Now, as you can see here, I have my CFD account on I started it with 100,000. So I already made 5,390 Rand profit. Now, to use this account, we need to go and analyze shares. So I would go to my analysis. I would go to my stocks. And then when it's done loading, I would then open up my additional advisors. So when my additional advisor is open, I will click on the Sharetrackin 2020 tab. Remember, to those of you who still doesn't have the Sharetrackin 2020 tab, you are more than welcome to send me an email to Karel, Karel, at sharetrackin.com, or you can just send a mail to support@sharetrackin.com and we will activate it for you. When I'm done on my, when it's done loading, I would then get this table. So as I explained in the previous webinar, underneath ShareT 2020, I would type in open and it gives me all the possible positions to open. So what I'll do is I'll work through them one by one and just have a look-see on which one is the best to buy. So I'm directly opening up my charts using the side menu. Under analysis, I'm looking for chart IQ, click on it, and then my charting will appear. So as you do note, my charts may look a bit different from yours. What I did was I have changed my theme to black using the settings button on the top right corner, and default themes, white or black, I just set it mine to black. As well as you will note that I have a 5-day moving average, which is a lot faster than your normal 200-day moving average because I'm trading shorter term. And also you would note that my RSI has a red line on it, which is a 3-day exponential moving average, which basically gives me buying and selling indications, the same as my stochastic, but it gives me the indications a bit earlier. Okay, so let's go and have a look. The first one we have here is ADI. So on the top left corner in the white block, you will see that there's already a code in there. It says J203. So now I can see how the JSE itself is performing. I would also note that the JSE I can see is growing, but ever since about March this year, the JSE has been fairly in a sideways movement. Some days there's growth, and then some days there's a loss, but I can see it's more or less on the same wavelength, if I can put it like that. So now in the top left corner, I type in ADI and I press enter. Immediately you will note that the share changed. I will notice that by the top left corner in the gray block there, it says ADI. Now I know I'm on the graph of ADI. So as you can see, this share is fairly constant in its movement, but what bothers me a bit is it moves very slow. So for a CFD trade, this wouldn't be a great share to look at. And if I look here, ever since the 11th of May, the share has been stable. My RSI does indicate an upwards growth, and I can see that my stochastic did cross to show an upwards movement. But currently, I will not look at the share because there's not enough movement for me to say, yes, on a day-to-day trade or day-to-week trade, I will make money. Next one is EQU. EQU, enter. Okay. So as I can see here, EQU as movement, it's a nice share for a day trade because the share jumps in price is quite good, which is a good thing if you're a trader and not an investor. The other thing I would note is that its previous trend was a short, and it does look like it's turning into a long, but I would just wait maybe a day or two longer for confirmation on the share. As I can see, my RSI already crossed to show a upwards trend, as well as my stochastic is busy crossing for an upwards trend. So there I would maybe wait just and see what it does tomorrow or maybe the day thereafter, and then I can go and buy into the share. Because your stochastic didn't cross yet, it's busy crossing, maybe tomorrow it could come in as a share that's dropping, and for that reason it would change the way your stochastic looks and then immediately show, but this share is busy going into a short. NPK is NAMPAC. So if I look at NAMPAC, I can see that NAMPAC is in a quite good short at this stage. Also, the movement is a little low for CFD trade. As a daily trader, this would be more share for a weekly trade. And then if I do look, the RSI stochastic does indicate that it wants to go up, but because it's been dropping for so long, I would then wait for the signal of firstly a green candle to show upwards movement, and I would wait for my stochastic to also show, but listen here, the share is busy going up. If I then look at the next one, that's QLT, it's Quilter. If I can look here, also Quilter is a good share. Some days it has nice movement for a day trading. Other times it looks more like a type of a weekly trading type of share. But if I do look here, the RSI is busy crossing, the stochastic is busy crossing. So maybe a day or two, and then I would buy into this share. That's what my graphs are showing me. Remember, you must wait for a clear indication, or it's preferable to wait for a clear indication on your RSI and stochastic to show that this share has crossed and it is busy moving upwards. If I do want to take the gamble, by all means, I can go and buy in. But like I said, it just takes one red candle tomorrow for your RSI and stochastic to change completely in direction. REN, it's Renergen. Also, this share does look like a quite nice short, as I can see here. Again, your RSI is busy crossing to show a downwards trend, whereas your stochastic crossed to show an upwards trend. Now, in a share like this, I would more likely follow my RSI as it moves a lot closer to my graph than my stochastic. But I can also see here that with next week's session, we'll be doing conversions and diversions, which would be lines, and how to interpret them and use them to your advantage for people that trade long term, as well as people that's trading short term, your CFD clients. So the RSI is showing a downward trend. Your stochastic, we can see that ever since the 30th of March, it's busy going down. Okay. Next one we have here is SEP. So SEP is more a stable type of share. It can be more a day type of share, but I would wait for a day and I wouldn't know that. So that's the problem, where it has a nice spike or where it is relatively low and starts growing. Okay, but as I can see here, most of this share's movement is more or less sideways. Like today was a great candle to climb in as a long and then wait for the share to grow. Again, RSI and stochastic is busy crossing, hasn't shown a clear indication of yes, I'm going up again. And as you can see here, all of these shares here is showing a long. Why? Because the RSI and the stochastic is showing a upwards movement. Next one, SASL. SOL. So if I do look at SASL, SASL has grown pretty great ever since November. So if I were looking at a longer term trade, if I was more of an investor, this would have been a great share ever since November. But I can see that here from the 29th of April, this share has the tendency to go a bit down more. Then you would also note that your RSI and stochastic is busy crossing to show an upward trend, which could indicate a share that's growing currently. Then the next one is PKE, it's Vukile Property Funds. So if I then do look at Vukile Properties, I would note that again, this isn't a bad share, but its recent tendency has been a short rather than a long. And you can also see here your RSI and stochastic cross to show an upward trend. Okay, so maybe a day or two waiting, and then I can go and buy the share. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a random share tonight. I'm going to buy into the share, explain the whole buying process, and all questions can be asked after the webinar. So the first one, EQU. So I click on the share. I've already looked at its charts. I just like opening up my charts and putting in the codes, as it goes easier for me than clicking on a share, clicking on chart IQ, and then going back and repeating the whole process. So I look at all the shares. I remember the codes that looked quite good. for example, and I just click on the shares and then I click on buy shares. Okay, so on your buying window then, you would note that there's select an account. So first of all, remember I'm trading CFDs, I'm not trading equities. So for that reason, I must go and select my CFD account. Next up, I have the company's code, the company's name, the last price, the date I'm performing the transaction, the money I have left in my account to buy, the actual max you can afford to buy, number of shares to trade, how many shares do I want to trade, and then a comment. And so the comment is the reason for buying this share. In other words, again, technical, fundamental, like I did explain in my session, my basic 3 webinar, the buying of a share, you must supply a fundamental technical reason. In other words, technical refers to your charting, what did you see on your graphs, your RSI and stochastic showed an upwards trend, the share is currently in a bullish momentum, and that would be an indication to go for a long. If I go for a short position, it would look like that. Okay, so in the previous webinar, I also explained that a long refers to the normal buying of shares that everyone understands. You buy low, you sell high. Okay, in other words, there's a great example. I buy there, I sell there, I made profit. Okay, if you go on a short, you would sell there and buy there, and the difference between the two is your profit. Remember, the next question that usually pops into mind is, how can I sell a share if I haven't bought the share? You're not physically buying shares into the company. I always explain it like more or less renting a house. So you pay a deposit on the house. As long as you give it back in the same condition, you get your money back. But if something breaks and it is because of your negligence, then you're not getting back your full deposit. Every month you pay rent on the house. So it's exactly the same with trading CFDs. You pay a deposit, basically, it's called an initial margin. Okay, each day you keep the share, like with Standard Bank, you pay about 80 cents a day for keeping the share. And then you have your brokerage that you're paying, your admin fee. It's exactly the same when you're going through a rental agreement and you're signing the papers and everything. Let's say with like a Remax or a ADA, you pay a admin fee to get the house, to get the rental agreement in your name. So that's the same with the shares. And then if you make money, you get your deposit back plus your money that you make. If you lose money on a CFD, they take it from your deposit, okay, from your margin that you invested in. And if it goes below that, because you didn't set up your stop loss, then they would get that money from your account. Or if your account goes over into a minus, they would tell you, listen here, you need to top up your account because you are in a minus, or we are going to sell the share. And let's say they do sell the share, my account is in a minus. So if I then put in money and my account is, let's say, in a minus 250 Rand, and I put in another 1,000 Rand, they automatically take 250 Rand from the 1,000 Rand we invested in. And I only have 750 Rand to trade with. So next up, I have leverage. So this was the gearing that I talked about in the beginning of the webinar. Sorry. Depending on the brokerage firm that you are going to use, whether you are using Standard Bank, FNB, Netbank, IG, depending on the platform, each platform gives you a different type of gearing on the same share. Okay, on some platforms you can trade this share, on other platforms you can't trade this share. It depends on platform to platform. What we've seen is that IG doesn't open up new accounts anymore to South Africans, but Standard Bank does open accounts to South Africans, and they are, if we're talking at bank brokerage firms, Standard Bank is the best platform because of brokerage that's the lowest, as well as your overnight fees, and they give you the most shares to CFD on, as well as the best leverages, your gearing ratios. And so it works like this. Like I said, it's like renting a house. So I must pay a X amount on the house. The leverage is the percentage that you will be paying. So in other words, I say, okay, I put in 1,000 Rand. The bank says, okay, according to risk assessment, we can multiply, or we can multiply it by, let's say, 5. Okay, so now I put in 5 there, for example. Standard Bank goes as high as to 8.5 I've seen, where FNB goes as high as 5. So where they make your money 5 times more, where Standard Bank, the highest I've seen was making your money 8.5 times more. And Netbank, I'm not so sure. I haven't really seen people signing up for Netbank CFD accounts, but I know they do have the function available. So let's say, for argument's sake, they say, okay, we'll multiply it by 5. Now I can go and say, okay, how many shares do I want to buy? Let's say I want to buy 1,000 shares. Now, for me to buy 1,000 shares at 18 Rand 60 a share, it's going to cost me, or the cost of the shares is 18,600 Rand. That would be your profit and losses value that you are going to make it on. So when I'm talking about, okay, I've made 5% growth, I've made 5% growth on 18,600 Rand. The margin is the percentage of the total cost that you are going to pay. In other words, you pay 20% of the total cost, which gives you 3,720 Rand, which you will be paying. Now, if I do go a step further, I must insert my reason. So I would then say here that my RSI and stock shows buy, and if I want to, I can add another reason. Okay. If it indicates that it's a short, I would say that my RSI and stock shows a sell. Okay. If there's any questions regarding the buying page, please do remember it. I'll answer it afterwards. Now, I can decide now, because I've looked at my graphs, I know that, okay, this would be a long or this would be a short. So this is where you make it happen. If it's a long, you click on open long position. It tells you successfully open position, EQU. If it was a short, I would have said open position and got the same message. Now I say close. I've successfully bought 1,000 EQU shares. If I then go to my dashboard, in my trader dashboard, there is EQU. Obviously, I'm starting on a 0 because we don't have brokerage fees in yet. We're still busy on the developing side of the brokerage fees. But at your bank, you will then start in a minus because of brokerage fees, which you will then make up your brokerage fees as you go along and your share grows. So let's say I've made my profits and losses, and I decide, okay, you know what, I've lost 200 Rand on the share, I want to climb out rather, or you know what, I've made 300 Rand on the share, let me climb out because I see the graphs is turning and it's turning into a short. I would then go to the right hand side of the share and click on action. My investment option graphs window will then pop up. From there on, I would click on close position. Immediately, you would note that the number of shares to trade is filled in, and I just put in my comment, my reason for selling. You would also see that it gives you a profit and loss window. So the reason for selling, I always put in, I've made 300 Rand or I lost 200 Rand or whatever the case may be. So what I physically made or lost on the share, so that I can always refer back to my transaction history and see what's going on there. And then I just click on close position again and the share would then sell. So now I say close. And if I do want to go and have a look at my transaction history, I would go to accounts, financials, and I would just make sure that my account selection is on CFD. And there's my full transaction history. So there you can see there was my profit that, or the share that we just bought. My previous one I sold because I've made 1,449 Rand. That one was a test that I just did to test something. This one I've made 800 Rand on. So there you can see I've made a bit of money, but you can also see I've lost a bit of money. So you must compensate for the money that you are going to lose. Like there, I've lost a couple of Rand. Any questions? You're more than welcome to stay behind and ask them. I will be here answering all of the questions that's there. To those of you who are going to leave the webinar now, may you have a blessed day further, and be sure to join us next week, Monday, where we will be discussing the lines, our converging and diverging trends. Bye, everyone.